traditional minute.
You hear this?
Yeah.
Good, because you know what we're doing today? We're talking about America's
Cowboys.
football team. We're talking about America's football team. We're talking about the Dallas Cowboys. And we're bringing
It's
it in.
really
It's
loud.
going to be a great episode. So, let's get started.
Audio Jungle.
Hey, sorry if anybody couldn't hear me or whatever, but we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys today.
Side note, I just caught a bug out of midair. Killed it.
Nice. It's positive news. Sorry for yelling. Now, we're breaking down all 32 teams, so let's get into the Dallas Cowboys. 2023 recap. Overall record 12-5, first in the NFC East. Home record dominated 9-0. Away record 3-5. Key wins. See, in all these key wins, I'm starting to put the Eagles, but maybe the Eagles weren't a key win at the end of the last season. Like, starting to look at it now. But key wins: Eagles, Seattle, Lions, and they were the team that every weekend.
I had the Rams on there.
Yeah, the Rams. They were the team week in and week out that they always took care of business. Like, if they had a 14-point spread, they covered the 14-point spread. If they had a 20-point spread, they covered it. They always took care of business and beat the teams that they were supposed to beat. Key losses: bad loss to the Cardinals early in the season. And then that, like, Bills Dolphins back to back when they lost, when everybody was like, man, we don't know if this team is for real or not.
Yeah.
And then obviously the score indicated that the game was a lot closer, but we all watched the playoff game play out. The Packers absolutely dominated the Cowboys in the playoffs.
Yeah, that score is very deceiving.
So
there was a lot of garbage time yards, a lot of garbage time stats.
Anything that you would like to add about, like, how they played last season, their record, and then, like, their key wins or key losses? I mean, this team was extremely dominant last season.
I think that going 8-0 at homes obviously is pretty important. If you can protect the home turf, I think that means something.
I thought they went 9-0. Did I do this wrong? 9, 10, 11, 12. They went 9-0 at home.
Did I say 8? Sorry.
Yeah.
Going undefeated at home, I think,
Regardless.
is important.
Yeah.
And I think being able to protect your home turf means something.
I completely agree with that. All right, so let's go over their key roster losses. Tyron Smith, who was missing a lot of games for them, and I feel like that they addressed that, but we'll get into that. But he's still an all-pro. So Tyron Smith, they lost Tony Pollard, who really struggled last season. I don't know what happened with him. It just kind of lost his juice. I mean, he did break his leg at the end of last season. They lost Van Der Esch to retirement.
Is a tough look.
Yeah, they lost Van Der Esch to retirement, and then Michael Gallup they released, but I don't know. Michael Gallup was like low-key a shell of himself. Do you have anything else for key roster losses?
I had Stephon Gilmore, but, like, they're filling it back with Trayvon Diggs, so, like, there was an asterisk next to that one.
Yeah, and listen, I love Stephon Gilmore, but at this point in his career, he's pretty old.
He did a good enough job, though.
Yeah, but he's an older guy, so key additions. This was a big point of contention all offseason with Cowboys fans and people who cover football. I will say, to start this, just because you're the team that's spending the most in free agency, that's usually not a good thing to begin with. And if you're in that range where you're doing a lot in free agency, you're probably not that good of a football team to begin with. So I'm not going to look at what happened during their during the free agency period and, like, knock them for that, because they pretty much have, like, the same team back. So I wanted to say that. And then key additions, they drafted Tyler Guyton. They drafted Marshawn Kneeland out of Western Michigan, who I told you that I really liked coming into the draft. The one free agency move they did make was sign Eric Kendricks, and Zeke Elliott they brought back.
Yep. And then they have Trayvon Diggs coming back to start the season, so that's a huge addition.
Yeah, they have Trayvon Diggs. Listen, I don't know how you feel about him, but I think Trayvon Diggs is one of the best corners in the league. I mean, the 2020, 2021, 22 season, 17 interceptions, 49 pass deflections. I mean, that's first out of all D-backs. I know that his game is variance, and it's very, I think you could probably say it's like turnover dependent, but being able to get those turnovers is a big deal in the NFL. And the Cowboys defense has been able to get turnovers like the last like 4 years, it feels like.
He plays very like high risk, high reward at the corner position rather than just like trying to like he doesn't play it safe. I'll just leave it at that. And that's why you're seeing these interceptions and these pass deflections. But there was times when he would get beat badly because he takes these chances. But it really just depends on how you want to play as a defense and if you have a good offense, which they do. So he can afford to take some of these chances and say gamble on some routes. And if it pays off, it looks really good because he has a great chance anytime he has the football to make a play after he picks it off or whatever. But then on the flip side, like if he is forcing those turnovers, you're putting it back onto an offense that has been very, very good the last few years. So like if I'm Dak, I'm like, oh great, like we get another opportunity to have the football. So
I just wanted to point that out because
I don't mind it.
I know a lot
it
of
would
people
stress me out week to week though, probably if he is taking some gambles and not making plays.
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out because there's like I don't know, there's a group of people that try to act like Trayvon Diggs like isn't an absolute like game changer like on the back end of the football, on the back end of the defense. So he definitely is, and he's one of the best in the entire NFL. I don't know why people act like he's not. But
so you can look at it like I remember looking this up when we were doing our Jets preview. It's you can throw on Stephon Diggs, but you're running that risk of a very, very high chance for an interception because I think he led the league the last full year he was healthy, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's the other side of this where you have Sauce Gardner and guys don't even look his way. I don't think he had an interception last year, and those two guys are both elite corners, but they're completely opposite ends of the spectrum. So it's pretty much just pick your poison on how you want to play as a defense, and I think they're both really good either way.
And we watched this past season Deron Bland replicate that high variance turnover where like that's how they played as a style of defense. And we watched two corners do the same thing. And these aren't guys. Deron Bland was a 6th round pick. Trayvon Diggs was a 2nd round pick. Like these aren't guys who were taken in the top 10 of the NFL draft who were sitting here saying like, oh, like these are like lockdown corner ones, but they have transformed themselves into all pro corners. I feel like that's a credit to the Cowboys for being able to develop their players.
I think it really helps too when you have Micah Parsons on your D-line, rushing the passer, play in and play out, really speeding up a quarterback, forcing him to make bad decisions. And those guys have been in the right place at the right time to take advantage of these quarterbacks making bad throws. And it seems to have been working for them so far.
No, it has been. And another loss that they had was Dan Quinn, obviously, who has been leading that defense over the last few years.
Yeah.
But hiring Mike Zimmer, everybody that I like listen to that like really knows football, like is like pretty high on that hire. They all have kind of like spoken like as Mike Zimmer and like super high regards of being like, hey, like this guy is like really good as a defensive coordinator. He might have not have been cut out to be a head coach, but getting him back as a DC, like people really feel that that's going to be like a difference for them this season. So I'm going to take the people who are smarter than me, then take their opinion and kind of agree.
Yeah, I think you can probably slot him in at the defensive coordinator position, and I don't really think you'll see that much of a difference like that. I don't really think you're going to see the defense really fall off for Dallas.
No, I don't think so either. All right, so do you have anything else to add of additions or losses for their roster?
I don't think so. I think that's pretty much. I do have that they have 4 new starters on defense. I've got Maurice Liafau at linebacker, Jordan Lewis at nickelback, and then Chauncey Golston at D tackle. So
nice. And they get Mozzie Smith, who comes back
Yeah.
this season, who was banged up. I mean, I'm expecting him to be a little bit better than he was his first year.
Facts.
Yep. Weaknesses for this team, the playoffs.
Yeah.
They literally that's they can't get over the hump. I mean, the last since why can't I think of the head coach's name? I'm blanking. Since
the Ginger.
No, who is it actually?
He's in the studio now.
No. Their head coach last year.
Oh, Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, since Mike McCarthy has taken over, the success of this team has been ridiculous. Like from a regular season standpoint, we just haven't seen it play out in the postseason, like literally at all. Which is crazy.
I don't know what needs to change when they get to the postseason. Like looking back at that playoff game, probably if you eliminate the interceptions that Dak threw, but they also couldn't get a stop. And that's not something that we really saw throughout the regular season. So I don't know. I don't know if it's fair to put all that blame on Dak for that game because he wasn't great, but also the defense wasn't great either.
No, they weren't. And Dak's interceptions didn't help much at all. I mean, the way that the game played out, obviously Green Bay was sitting on it and trying to kill clock, but it did end pretty close. They were in it at least. They woke up at some point, but like I said, it wasn't, the final score didn't indicate how the game went. What makes them special? I think it's safe to say that Dallas's star power makes them special. Their defense makes them special. And honestly, I think bringing back that same, I remember when Kellen Moore left 2 years ago, everybody kind of had a crazy, the offense isn't going to be the same. And Mike McCarthy took over, and that offense was special last season. And you pretty much have the same makeup that you had of that offense last season. So I'm going to say that their offense, their star power, and their defense makes them special. I mean, this is a good football team at the end of the day.
Yeah. They, reading off some of their stats on the offensive side of the ball last year, they were first in points per game with 30. They were fourth in yards per game with 379. Third down, they were great at 49%. Yards per play, they were 8th, 5.6. They were middle of the pack in red zone, middle of the pack in fourth down, and they were scoring 3.4 touchdowns per game, which was 4th. From a more in-depth passing perspective of this offense, they were probably one of the best passing offenses in the NFL. They were at 7.1 yards passing per play. They had the number one Dak had the number one completion percentage. I guess it would just been the whole offense at 69.58%. That's stupid. Through the 8th least amount of interceptions and kept Dak pretty clean with 9th lowest sacks per game. So they do a great job in the regular season on offense and on defense. It's just something happens when the playoffs come, and it just doesn't really seem. You can't get a full 4-quarter Dallas Cowboys game from them.
Yeah, it's weird. So to build on top of that, before we get into 2024 predictions, I know that everybody, it feels like the overall consensus of the Cowboys currently is low. Not everybody's super happy with them. I understand that you need to get a deal done with Dak. I understand that you need to get a deal done with CD. You have Micah coming up. But at the end of the day, we're talking about what is going to happen in the 2024 season. And honestly, you have all of those guys on a contract year who are all ready to ball out. I think so. Everybody is very opinionated about their running back room. I think out of any team in the entire NFL, I think that we are pretty much safe to say that the Dallas Cowboys are able to develop running backs. I don't know what they have in their running back room currently. I know it's Zeke and Rico Dwaddle. They must feel a certain type of way about Rico Dwaddle that they are going to be able to use him in a way that I kind of look at it as the Zeke Pollard combo from 2 years ago. Maybe he's not as special as Pollard, but at the end of the day, the Cowboys are able to develop these running backs. They had Zeke go on a serious tear when he got into the league and then developed Pollard. He just got absolutely paid. So I'm going to pretty much sit here and until I see it not play out that way, I'm just going to kind of trust that they got the running back room figured out.
Yeah, they also have Deuce Vaughn and Royce Freeman in that running back group.
Do you have anything to add to that? Like, how do you feel about what I just said? Anything?
I mean, I almost I'm starting to look at the Cowboys kind of how I've been looking at the Steelers, where you're automatically going to get 10 wins from this team because of like, I don't like Dak, but I'm not going to sit here and say that he's not a good NFL quarterback. He's probably he's a top 10 guy for sure. But
he got robbed
like
of
I
an
said,
MVP last season.
It just something happens in the playoffs, but strictly regular season here, I think they'll be fine. Like, you're getting your best, like your second best player back on defense. Like, that's never a bad sign.
No.
I think that obviously they still have CeeDee Lamb. Like, that guy's prone probably to have is going to have another big year. Like, he's almost unguardable is what it seems like. So I don't know. I feel like there's not really a whole lot of turnover and a whole lot of different things here. Like, as far as last season to this season.
I'm right with you. That's where, like, now, like, I'm going to give my 2024 prediction. I'm like right there with you. I'm not seeing many issues with this team, obviously, if everybody can stay healthy. So honestly, I'm going to give them the nod again. I think that they're just an elite regular season team. I think 11 to 12 wins. And I do think that they finish first in the division. I really do.
So I'm going back and forth on this. I've got 10 or 11 wins, but I'll set it at, I'm going to keep it at 10-7, only because I was looking at their schedule and they kind of have a really tough schedule.
Yeah.
They go at Cleveland, Baltimore, at Pittsburgh, Detroit, at San Francisco, Philly, Houston, Philly. They do have like an easy stretch in there of at Washington versus the Giants. I'm not saying the Bengals are easy, but Bengals, Carolina, Tampa Bay.
That's an easy stretch.
It is.
I think it's safe. I think it's safe to say that the Eagles and Cowboys always split one every single year, it seems like. And then
I know.
On top of that, like the Giants and the Commanders, like I'm personally not expecting much out of them. So I think that they could take care of business. So I think that they could benefit from being in that kind of a weak division.
That's what I'm saying. That's an easy, from weeks 12 to 16. That's an easy stretch of games that they have.
For sure. No, I agree with you completely.
I'm back and forth between 10 and 11 wins.
Yeah. So you think that they have just as good a chance to win the division again? Pretty much, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'll probably come down to the last 17. Couple weeks of the regular season between the Eagles and the Cowboys, just like it did last year, basically.
Yeah, it always seems like that's the case, and I'm right there with you. I think that it's probably the Eagles or the Cowboys. I just think that the reason why I'm picking, and we'll obviously get into it when we talk about the Eagles, the reason why I'm giving the Cowboys the nod over the Eagles as of right now is it seems like a lot less turnover from like a coaching perspective, from a roster perspective, personnel, like the entire thing, like playbook, everything, that I think that the Cowboys will probably have a little bit smoother time like at the start of the season than the Eagles will.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, but we'll get into that a little bit deeper.
All right, awesome. So sounds like me and Noah again.
Yeah, it's
a little bit here on the same page with the Cowboys. So Cowboys fans, we're pretty much here to tell you, calm down. The 2024 season, you guys are definitely in good hands.
Audio Jungle.